Hi, in this tutorial, we're going to go over some of the basic features of Flipgrid, what Flipgrid is and what you can do with it. Look for my other videos where I'm going to be going over the updates that Flipgrid is going to be having pretty soon at the beginning of August with its new shorts cameras and some other updates that it's going to have. Right now, we're just going to go over some basic tools and basic overview of how to set up your grid and how to set up your topics so you can start using Flipgrid in the classroom. Flipgrid, pretty much what I like to think of it, is an online video discussion, and you can use it not only just to discuss questions with your students in class, but it can also be used as a presentation tool where instead of having in-class presentations, students can present their grids on Flipgrid instead, and you can just go through them in class, have peer feedback. There's a lot of different options that you can do with Flipgrid. Once you get to know how to use it, you'll start to think of some new ideas that you can adapt to your own classroom. So let's go ahead and get started and take a look at the different features within Flipgrid. First of all, if you just go to flipgrid.com, all you have to do is just go to Educator Login, and you'll be able to log in with your Google account. I'm already logged in, so it's immediately going to take you to your desktop, your dashboard rather, of where you'll find all of your grids that you'll be creating. When you go to My Grids, you'll see a list of all of the grids that you've created. And in order to create a new grid, you very simply just have to go right here to this blue button where it says New Grid with the plus sign. You click on it, and it's going to then bring out this pop-up box that'll let you create your grid. Now, there's 3 types of grids that you can create. You can create a grid that's school email, which means if your students are using Google Classroom, they have their Google accounts, that's probably the best bet for you to create your grids based on email. That way, the students, when they log into the grid, will have to put in their school Google account in order to access the grid, and that's just one form of security. There's also the student ID grid, which if your students don't have a Google Classroom account like we do, then you'll be able to create a list of usernames and passwords for your students, but it also generates an individual QR code, which is great because if we just print out the QR codes for the students, then all they have to do is just scan the QR code and it'll automatically take them to the grid, and they'll be able to record their responses for the topics that you create. And then finally, the last option is your PLC or your public grid. Will you be able to then open this grid up to everyone outside of the classroom? But in order to record, they will have to have a Google or Microsoft account. They are able to view the videos that are there, but if they wanted to record, they will need a Google or Microsoft account. Now, there is a way to get around that if we ever want to create guest grids, and we'll look at that once we start making our own grids. So just to take a look at what these different grids look like, I'm going to choose school email, and I'm just going to go ahead and name my grid. Now, your grid, I suggest if you have different periods that you create a grid for each of your periods. And that way you have your students, it's easier to organize your students that way. I'm just going to go ahead and create a test grid right now. And right here, this gives us what our address is to our particular grade, and this in particular is the code that students could always put in as if they're using Flipgrid on their phone, because you can download it as an app to either iOS or Android devices. That would be the code that they're putting into their phone. So let's just go ahead and click on next. And since I clicked on the school email grid, it's going to ask me what school domain is allowed for my grid. So for example, we'd go ahead and put our school domain, which is everything from the @ afterwards. This is what's allowable in my grid. That way my students can go ahead and put in their Google accounts. I click on enter, and now it's available. So now I'm ready to launch my grid. Now, if I ever want to change my grid and what I've done, then I can totally do that later on. So I can go ahead and go back and change my grid from one form to another if I decide to change my mind. So now that my grid is ready, I'm going to go ahead and exit out of there just for a second. And then all of a sudden, this is now the dashboard to my grid. See, now is my test grid. This is my main grid. And then listed down here are the topics, right? These will be the specific assignments, we can say, that you will have within your particular grid. Automatically, Flipgrid creates an introduction topic. You don't have to use it, but it's just something that automatically comes every time you create a new grid. It creates an introduction topic. Now, as I said before, if I ever wanted to change the settings of my grid itself, I just have to go to Grid Actions and go to Edit Grid. And here I can totally go ahead and change the name of my grid. I can change my code. So if I actually wanted to change my flip code to something more customized, I can totally do that. And here I can actually go ahead and change my grid from school email to the student ID to a PLC. So if I ever wanted to change my grid to a different community type, I can do that. So for example, if I clicked on student ID, then I can go ahead and now give my students particular usernames to be able to access the grid. Now I can go ahead and submit a CSV file, and it has a template provided for you to just upload all of my students at once, or I can do it one by one. But here you'll see that this is where you'll find the QR code, which I can then go ahead and print just for my particular student. And that way my student, all they need to worry about is just going to scan that code and then be able to record automatically. So they don't necessarily have to type in their usernames, but instead just go ahead and scan their codes. So I'm going to go ahead and just leave that back as it was. Here I can also then change settings if I want to not allow students to download their videos. If I ever wanted the students to download their videos to be able to put them somewhere else, I could always turn that off. Captions are now something that's going to be automatic through Microsoft's new update. So automatically, captions are going to appear for videos. Every time students record their videos, closed captioning is going to appear within the video. So that's something that's going to happen automatically now with the new Flipgrid updates. And then here I can actually go ahead and turn on or off whether we want to allow students to receive notifications. Since they don't have email access anyway, then it's fine to leave that off because they're not going to have access to be able to receive notifications for followers. So pretty much I just leave the settings as are when I do it. You can always change the background of your grid. So it has different ways to be able to drop in a background if you want to upload your own image of a background or choose from the different ones they have there. You are able to customize and update your grid however you like. Other features that are here. Here you'll see the flip code. This active button will let you turn your grids on or off. So if you want to hide your grid so that they're not viewable, you can go ahead and click in hidden and they won't be. So you can keep your grid on all as you want. The share grid is going to let you share the grid with your class. So if I want to add this code and I want to post it to my Google Classroom, I am totally able to do that. And then I can go ahead and post it into my Google Classroom. I can just share the code as a link, or I can even share the code as a QR code. So there's different options. This co-pilot option is if I want to add another teacher to be able to administer my grid, and I want that other teacher to be able to be on this grid with me to be able to review videos and provide feedback, I can go ahead and just put the email in and invite that person, and now there will be co-pilots to my grid. So you can definitely have more than one teacher as an administrator onto your grids.